So Google's Pixel 7 is one of the most affordable flagship phones out there in 2022, despite packing one of the very best camera experiences of any blower out there. But if you've got a fair bit of cash stuffed in your mattress and you want to go supersized, well, the Pixel 7 Pro may be a seriously enticing upgrade. So shiny and big. I've been using the pair of them extensively this past month. I've had my SIM slapped in each of them for around 2 weeks a piece. So here's my in-depth Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro review, so you can work out which one might be best for you, if any of them. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now out of this pair, the one I'm most drawn to personally is the refreshingly compact 6.3-inch Pixel 7. Seriously, this thing feels better in the hand than an ice-cold pint on a red-hot roasting day. Although it's still not as pleasingly dinky as the Zenfone 9, and it is a mite bigger than the Xiaomi 12 as well. In contrast, the Pixel 7 Pro does seem somewhat unnecessarily oversized. Believe me, if I'm wearing one of my tighter pairs of jeans, every time I attempt to bend over or sit down, the Pixel 7 Pro gives my pancreas a pretty bloody good probing. And even if you get the one-handed mode on the go, well, good f***ing luck actually using it with less than 2 hands still. But of course, some people like a proper handful, and those people should be happier than a hoary dachshund surrounded by human legs and cushions at this massive Google blower. And Google's updated design for the Pixel 7 series just looks absolutely fantastic, definitely more refined than the previous generation. It looks proper lush. Here on the regular Pixel 7, you also get a flat display, which might sway quite a lot of people onto the more regular model. In comparison, the Pro model sports a curved display, just gently slopes around those edges for even skinnier bezels. Now the regular Pixel 7 comes in a choice of 3 colours. You've got Obsidian, Snow and Lemongrass, which roughly translated means black, white and watered down cat urine. If you want the Pro version instead, you can once again opt for white or black, while that lemongrass finish is swapped out for a moodier hazel effort. And personally, I do like the look of my white Pixel 7 compared with the black Pixel 7 Pro. The black model looks very sleek and all, but greasy fingerprints have absolutely nowhere to hide on this thing. While the lighter version looks clean and fresh no matter how much you finger it, even right after munching your way through a butter-soaked bacon sarnie. The actual materials used in these phones are identical. You've got Gorilla Glass Victus up front for that display and also around the back end as well, and then sandwiched in between them is a metal frame. And the actual frame still looks perfectly fresh on both the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro. Unfortunately, the back and the front end of the Pixel 7 Pro have picked up some light scratches, which is kind of perturbing after just a month of use. Somehow, the Pixel 7 is still looking box fresh. There's not a single scratch on there that I can see. Certainly, I think that's probably more down to luck than anything else though, as it is constructed from the same stuff as the Pro. So if I were you, whichever one you get, I would say stick on a screen protector and slap on some sort of cover or case as well. Oh, and like most flagship smartphones, you've got full IP68 water and dust resistance as well, so no worries if you want to do a bit of doom scrolling in the shower or whatever. Now, Android 13 may not be a jaw-dropping evolution over Android 12 precisely, and quite a few of the new features, such as the ability to record yourself snoring, I could honestly live without. And on top of that, one of the best new features of Android 13, the weight prediction tool whenever you call an 0800 style toll-free number, isn't even available here in the UK. I mean, seriously, Google, come on, it's not been a good time for us Brits lately. The Queen went and popped her clogs, we've been swapping our Prime Minister more often than we change our pants, and our currency is dropping in value at a terrifying rate, to the point where it actually makes more sense to wipe your ass with £5 notes than to spend them on increasingly expensive toilet paper. So, come on Google, just throw us a frickin' bone already. More minor gripes include no microSD memory card slot to expand the 128 or 256 gigs of storage, and the single solitary SIM slot, although you do at least get eSIM support on top of that. On the plus side though, while these Pixel blowers were occasionally a little bit glitchy pre-release, thankfully I've seen no buggy behaviour whatsoever these past couple of weeks. The everyday experience is deeply satisfying and silky smooth to boot, with the reassurance of at least 5 years of updates and Google's usual smart security measures. And if you want a closer look at the software on these Pixel phones, well, I've done a full tips and tricks guide which just went live about a day or two ago, so definitely go have a gander at that one. In more good news, the optical fingerprint sensor on both Pixel 7 phones is worlds better than the heap of bollocks that Google slapped on the Pixel 6s. The scanner sometimes struggles if your hands are particularly moist, but otherwise it's all good. And there's also now face unlock, which you can use as a backup option, which only really falters in particularly low light. So as long as you're not getting super sweaty in a nightclub or wearing both gloves and sunglasses at the same time, you shouldn't have to resort to PIN entry. However, bear in mind that the face recognition can't be used to sign into apps or to authorize payments either. For that, you will have to use your digit. No matter your choice of Google smartphone, you'll be getting yourself a gorgeous OLED screen. A 6.3 incher for the regular Pixel 7 and 6.7 inches on the Mighty Pro. To make up for the bigger size, Google has bumped up the maximum resolution on the Pro to Quad HD Plus versus the Full HD Plus visuals on the Pixel 7. Stick them side by side and you'll get sharp, finely detailed visuals on both with no discernible difference. Plus, as you would expect from flagship blows, you've got full HDR support when streaming compatible movies or shows. And they're also more than bright enough to comfortably use outdoors, so you're not squinting whenever the sun shines, whether you're replying to emails, doing a bit of Netflixing, whatever. And also, don't be put off by the fact that the Pixel 7 Pro's display does curve around those edges, because I found that even when I had this thing in a death grip, my palm fat and other bits didn't accidentally intrude on that display and bulk up the responsiveness. You got a 90Hz refresh on the Pixel 7, 120Hz on the Pixel 7 Pro. Again, didn't notice any difference, both silky smooth. You got a stereo speaker setup that is impressively beefy on both models, and the Bluetooth 5.2 streaming works perfectly too. Although nope, there is no headphone jack on either of the Pixel 7s, as if you even had to ask. Now both the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro have Google's Tensor G2 chipset stuffed inside, once again a collaboration with Samsung. And this serves up the Mali G710 GPU, which is faster and more power efficient than the original Tensor GPU, but we are talking a gentle evolution here, just like with Android 13. And when I first had to play with the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro for my unboxing videos, I found that everything ran beautifully smoothly until I tried booting up Genshin Impact and bumping those graphics settings all the way up to the maximum levels. At which point everything went a bit Pete Tong, or whatever the more up-to-date version of that rhyme and slang is. Benedict Wong? Thankfully, this lethargic gaming experience is no longer an issue. The Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro can now run Genshin on higher settings without making a big old mess in their metaphorical pants. Perhaps they were simply finding their legs, or perhaps a subsequent update smoothed things out. Either way, while the Tensor G2 still feels less beefy than its biggest rivals, it can at least cope under pressure. Although these phones do get unnervingly warm at times as well, and not even when they're under particular pressure. And thankfully I haven't seen any bottlenecking, I haven't seen any hard resets or anything like that happening, but it's definitely something I'll be keeping my eye on. Especially as I had similar sort of issues with last year's Pixel 6s. Also, Google's Game Dashboard is back in action here, offering a small selection of useful features, although the optimization tool is next to useless, as only around a dozen titles are actually supported by this right now. No matter your choice of phone, you've got Wi-Fi 6E support and 5G connectivity as well, and no issues on the networking front, whether I've been sat right here at home using my home Wi-Fi or out and about roaming using that mobile data. But something else I wasn't particularly impressed by on either of these smartphones when I first started to test them out was the battery life. You've got a 4,355 mAh capacity cell here on the regular Pixel 7. That is boosted considerably to a 5,000 mAh one on the Pixel 7 Pro. But of course, to counter this, the Pixel 7 Pro also has to power a bigger, sharper display. And I was struggling to get a full day of battery life out of both of these phones when I first started using them over a month ago. But thankfully, about a week or so into my testing period, I found that that battery life did improve considerably, helped along by a couple of little updates that Google has done in the meantime. So these days I'll get roughly 6 hours of full-on screen on time with mixed use with both of these smartphones. And that's, a bit of camera play, lots of media streaming, bit of gaming on the side occasionally as well. So I haven't actually made it to the end of a day and been running on complete dregs. I usually have at least 10 to 15% left in the tank by the time I collapse into bed and get all snuggled up with Teddy. And when it's time to power them back up again, well, they support 30-watt wired charger, not the nippiest around, but certainly pretty standard for a smartphone that hasn't come out of China. And they both support wireless charging as well, if you've got a good old Qi wireless charging pad. Now, last up, the optics, and both the Pixel 7 and that 7 Pro sport an identical 50 meg Octa-PD quad Bayer camera with optical image stabilization. In other words, it's the same sensor tech as last year's Pixel 6 series. And I would say it's a mite disappointing that there's no hardware upgrade here, but as that old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't f*** about with it. And things most certainly ain't broke, because the Pixel 7 pair boasts the best point-and-shoot camera performance of any smartphone in 2022. When you're shooting people or animals, you can swap to the excellent portrait mode and get gorgeous results with bokeh that you can mess about with in post-processing if you wanna. And the Pixels boast a swift shutter speed too, so you can capture loads of photos in quick succession and make sure you nail those blink and you'll miss 'em moments. Complicated shots tinted with strong contrast aren't a problem either, especially using Google's handy on-screen brightness sliders. And even if the lighting is full on, you won't see much saturation and colours will appear natural. Google's night vision mode can be automatically activated by the phone whenever the lighting is CAC, and I would recommend not fiddling with that particular setting as it makes a real difference, essentially allowing you to see in the dark. Absolutely stellar stuff. And both Pixel 7 smartphones also offer up an alternative 12 megapixel ultra-wide angle shooter. And while colours aren't quite as realistic with this option, it is there if you want to fit more into frame. Now when it comes to that camera tech, the major advantage that the Pixel 7 Pro has over its regular sibling is the fact that it's got a 48 megapixel telephoto lens on there with 5 times optical zoom. And that's bolstered by a good bit of optical image stabilization, just like the primary shooter, and it's an option that's just straight up cut out of the regular Pixel 7. When you're capturing a photo between 2.5 times and 5 times zoom levels, you'll end up with a hybrid photo stitched together from images taken with the primary and the telephoto sensors, meaning pleasingly crisp detail and no compromises. And when you push in over the 5 times zoom level, it's telephoto all the way. And I've got to say, even most of the way up to the 30 times zoom cap, I got some bloody good results. This is easily one of the best telephoto shooters that I've ever tested, perfect for snapping kids, pets, anything that you don't want to disturb for natural looking images. Even in very low light, it doesn't fall apart, producing quite crisp results with help from that stabilization. I got to admit, I really missed that telephoto option whenever I was just snapping away with the regular Pixel 7. Yeah, it's just like, oh, why? Oh. Switch things up with a bit of video, and again, these Pixels do a great job with minimal effort. You don't have an 8K option, but my 4K test clips were crisp and detailed enough to enjoy on a telescreen, with detail levels only really dropping when the lighting became more problematic. Vibrant colours are again ably captured, and you can swap between all of the lenses as you record. And this isn't too jarring, although colour accuracy does take a hit when you're away from that primary sensor. The telephoto lens on the Pixel 7 Pro is particularly impressive in low light, while the optical image stabilization once again counters any vicious hand sway caused by a few too many surprisingly strong lagers. And as for audio, well, I'd have preferred some better wind cancellation, but otherwise it's top stuff. The Pixel 7s come with a cinematic mode, which, like Samsung's portrait video mode, adds a bokeh style effect behind your subject, although a month on this hasn't improved at all. If your subject moves at all, the Pixel easily loses track and goes a bit berserk, so for now, just avoid. And likewise, all the motion stuff which can add fake motion blur or mimic a long exposure shot is okay, but it can be quite shonky and frankly feels a bit gimmicky, and I imagine most people wouldn't even bother touching it. And if you get yourself the Pixel 7 Pro, where you'll also find you've got a macro mode on board, and this can automatically activate whenever you get really close up to something. We're talking like a couple of centimeters away. What it does is it automatically switches to the ultra wide angle shooter, which on the Pro has an auto focus, unlike the regular Pixel 7, hence you don't get that macro mode here. And the results aren't bad at all, although I still prefer to just take high-res images on phones with massive camera sensors and then simply crop in, as you don't have any stress from shadows or other issues. And one of the other new highlights of taking photos on these Pixel phones is the photo de-blur feature as well, which to be honest I really didn't have to use very often at all, because it's very rare to get a blurry shot on these two. And I gotta admit, I'm still not convinced. It can help a little bit with blur, but it's not quite the miracle tool that some are making it out to be. It's certainly not as immediately valuable and impressive as Google's tool, which wipes out any background stragglers, effectively eliminating them from existence. But hopefully over time, with a good bit of machine learning or whatever, that de-blur tool will really be worth its weight in gold. And last up for the optics, both Pixel 7 phones pack a simple 10.8 meg fixed focus selfie shooter, which has been okay for those social media snaps. In low light, it's once again sometimes a bit crap, vomiting out blurry, unsavory pics, especially if you're not entirely still. Definitely best used when conditions are favourable. And that right there is my full, final, frank review of the Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro after using them for just over a month. And I gotta say, I'm kind of torn because I love the more compact, hand-feely awesomeness of the Pixel 7, but the Pixel 7 Pro has that bloody awesome telephoto shooter, which I just adore so much. Aside from that, they are equally awesome. Great battery life, pretty decent performance, not the best out there, but certainly good enough even if you want to do a good bit of gaming. Refined design, exceptional camera tech, and just all around great software, smart as well. So let me know, are you tempted by the Pixel 7 or the Pixel 7 Pro? Have you been using one of them as your full-time smartphone? It'd be great to hear from you down in the comments below. Please do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a bloody lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.